Chapter 9. Then they found good gold on the upper Mietze. Miners came in pairs and wandered through the peaks, rooting up the ground and spoiling little streams. Grizzly old men mostly, that had lived their lives in the mountains and themselves slowly turning into grizzly bears, digging and grubbing everywhere. Not for good, wholesome roots, but for that shiny yellow sand that they could not eat, living the lives of grizzlies, asking nothing but to be left alone to dig. They seemed to understand Grizzly Wob. The first time they met, Wob reared up on his hind legs, and the wicked green lightning began to twinkle in his small eyes. The elder man said to his mate, "Let him alone. He won't bother you." "He's an awfully big size, though," replied the other nervously. Wob was about to charge, but something held him back. A something that had no reference to his senses, that was felt only while they were still. A something that in bear and man is wiser than his wisdom, and that points the way at every doubtful fork in the dim and winding trail. Of course, Wob did not understand what the men said, but he could feel that there was something different here. The smell of man and iron was there, but not that maddening kind. And he missed the pungent odor that even yet brought back the dark days of his cubhood. The men did not move, so Wob rumbled a subterranean grumble, then dropped down on all four and went on. Late the same year, Wob ran across the red-nosed black bear. How that bear did keep on shrinking! Wob could have hurled him across the gray bowl with one tap now. But the black bear did not mean to let him try. He hustled his fat, pudgy body up a tree at a rate that made him puff. Wob reached up 9 feet from the ground, and with one rake of his huge claws tore off the bark clear to the shiny white wood and down nearly to the ground. The black bear shivered and whimpered with terror at the scraping of those awful claws that ran up the trunk and up his spine in a way that was horribly suggestive. What was it that the sight of that black bear stirred in Wob? Was it memories of the upper Piney, long forgotten, thoughts of a woodland rich in food? Wob left him trembling up there as high as he could get, and without any very clear purpose swung along the upper benches of the Mietze down to the Grey Bull, around the foot of the Rimrock Mountain, and on till hours later he found himself in the timber tangle of the lower Piney, and among the berries and ants of the old times. He had forgotten what a fine land the Piney was. Plenty of food, no miners spoiling the streams, no hunters to keep an eye on, and no mosquitoes or flies, but plenty of open, sunny glades and shelter that was in the woods, back up by the high, straight cliffs to turn the colder winds away. There were, moreover, no resident grizzlies, no signs even of passing travelers, and the black bears that were in possession they didn't count. Wob was well pleased. He rolled his vast bulk in an old buffalo wallah and reared up against a tree where the Piney Canyon quits the Grey Bull Canyon, and he left on his mark full 8 feet from the ground. In the days that followed he wandered further and further among the ragged spurs of the Shoshones, and took possession as he went. He found the signboards of several black bears, and if they were small dead trees, he sent them crash into the earth with a drive of his giant paw. If they were green, he put his own mark over the other and made it clearer by slashing the bark with the great pickaxes that grew on his toes. The upper Piney had so long been a black bear range that the squirrels had ceased storing their harvest in hollow trees and were now using the spaces under flat rocks where the black bears could not get at them. Wob found this land of plenty, Every fourth or fifth rock in the pine woods was the roof of a squirrel or chipmunk granny, and when he turned it over, if the little owner was there, Wob did not scruple to flatten him with his paw and devour him as an edible relish to his own provision. And wherever Wob went, he put up his signboard, "Trespassers beware." It was written on the trees as high as he could reach, and everyone that came by understood that the scent of it and the hair in it were those of the great grizzly Wob. If his mother had lived to train him, Wob would have known that a good range in spring may be a bad one in summer. Wob found out by years of experience that a total change with the seasons is best. In the early spring, the cattle and elk ranges, with their winter-killed carcasses, offer a bountiful feast. In early summer, the best forage is on the warm hillsides, where the quamash and the Indian turnip grow. In late summer, the berry bushes along the river flats were laden with fruit, and in autumn, the pine woods gave good chance to be fattening up for the winter. So he added to his range every year. He not only cleared out the black bears from the Piney and the Mietzi, but he went over to the divide and killed that old fellow that once chased him out of the Warhouse Valley. And more than that, he held what he'd won, for he broke up a camp of tenderfeet that were looking for a ranch location on the middle of Mietzi. He stampeded their horses and made general smash of the camp. And so all the animals, including man, came to know that the whole range from Frank's Peak to the Shoshone Spurs was the proper domain of a king well able to defend it, and the name of that king was Mietzi Wob. Any creature whose strength puts him beyond the danger of open attack is apt to lose in cunningness. Yet Wob never forgot his early experience of the traps. He made it a rule never to go near that smell of man and iron, and that was the reason that he never again was caught. So he led his lonely life and slouched around on the mountains, throwing boulders about like pebbles and huge trunks like matchwood, as he sought for his daily food. And every beast of hill and plain soon came to know and fly in fear of Wob, the one-time hunted, persecuted cub. And more than one black bear paid with his life for the ill deed of that other long ago. And many a cranky bobcat, flying before him, took to a tree, and if that tree was dead or dry, Wob heaved it down, and tree and cat alike were smashed to bits. Even the proud-headed stallion, leader of the Mustang band, thought well for once to yield the road. The great gray timber wolves, and the mountain lions too, left their new kill, sneaked into a sullen fear aside when Wob appeared. And if, as he hulked across the sage-covered river flat, sending the scared antelope skimming like birds before him, he was faced perchance with some burly range bull, too young to be wise and too big to be afraid, Wob smashed his skull with one blow of that giant paw, and served him as the range cow would have served him long ago. The All-Mother never fails to offer to her own 2 cups, one gall and one of balm. Little or much they may drink, but equally of each. The mountain that is easy to descend must soon be climbed again. The grinding hardship of Wob's early days had built his mighty frame. All usual pleasures of a grizzly's life had been denied him, but power bestowed in more than double share. So he lived on, year after year, unsoftened by mate or companion, sullen, fearing nothing, ready to fight, but asking only to be left alone, quite alone. He had but one keen pleasure in his somber life, the lasting glory of his matchless strength. The small, but never failing thrill of joy as the foe fell crushed and limp, or the riven boulders grit and heaved when he tossed them to the measure of his wondrous force. End of chapter 9.